Hey guys, now this video is where we're going to finally dive into the texture variation that we're seeing on the book, like all the dry patches, little scuff marks, all the many stains on the fabric. I think this is really where you're going to see this whole material kind of come alive, because up until this point, everything we've been doing is more about just getting presets to appear in the right location. This is really when the book is going to feel believable. Now to do this, we're going to take advantage of Painter's procedural textures. So I don't really want to be hand painting this very much at all. I want to rely on these preset generators and procedurals to do a lot of the heavy work for me. What I'm going to do is make a new fill layer, and we're going to call this Fabric Light Stain. And I'm going to turn off everything except for color for right now. So it's just going to do color variation first. We might decide we want to add some other property to that later, depending on how it looks. Let's add a black mask. Then I'm going to go up here to the effects and add fill. Now once I add a fill, you can see that down here, it's looking for something. It's a gray color at the moment, so the fill layer is almost like just a gray coat of paint across everything. So it's just covering everything below it. What we're going to do is go into the procedurals, and there's a lot of these guys that we can pick from. We're obviously not going to have enough time to talk about every single one of these, but there's a group in the middle called Grunge. You can tell they're all named very similar. Grunge Galvanized, Grunge Leaks, Grunge Concrete, Dirt, a bunch of really cool ones. You just have to kind of scroll through them and see what types of procedurals might be a good starting point. I'm going to go to the Grunge folder, though, because this will kind of isolate only the Grunge map, so it's a lot easier to get to these guys, especially since we're going to be using them so much over all these projects. Now, there's one in here called Grunge Concrete Old, and this one, obviously, you'd think by the name it'd be great for concrete, but just texturally the way it looks, I think it could also work for what we're kind of doing on the book. Like, that feels somewhat similar to that. So on the fill effect, you'll see there's that grayscale box. All you got to do is drag this over to it. And as soon as that appears, you can see now that gray color we picked on the layer is appearing based on that texture right there. Now I don't want to see nearly as much of it. That's quite a bit. So what I can do is go back to the color. We're going to click on the fill layer. We have a bunch of different settings. This one also has a random seed. Let's just see if that works. Okay, this one doesn't have a random seed. What random seed is going to do is sometimes these procedurals have different variations where if you click that button, it'll kind of create a slightly different version of that same texture. But that's all right. I still like the way this looks. Now from here, what I'm going to do is darken the texture, which is with balance. I'm kind of like fading the lighter colors out so it's not covering so much of the book. I'm just doing that until I think I'm happy with it. Like maybe somewhere right around there looks pretty good, right? Yeah, like that. Okay, now if I go back to the layer, I'm going to click on the color because I don't want it to be gray. We're going to color pick that same green as a starting point. So you can see right now it's layering that same green over itself. But now I can go in here and just lighten that a little bit. And you can kind of see that we're sort of getting just a lighter version of that book color on there. Maybe I need to push the saturation just a little more. Okay, something like this. Now let's try this again. Maybe this is not quite enough variation. You want to add some little spots in here as well. So we're going to click back and we're going to stack another fill layer on top of this same one. Click, we're going to add fill. Now watch what happens when I do that. See how it covers the one beneath it? You can't see it. We'll fix that in just a minute. Let's type in something like stain. Bunch of pretty cool ones in here that would all possibly work. Like this guy's nice. That one's also pretty cool. This one on the right is a pretty popular one that people use. Let's give this one a shot. Actually, I think I'm going to stick with this guy next to it. I'm just going to drag that to the grayscale box. Okay, now you can see what this one looks like. Now this is a pretty big texture. I think the scale feels a little off just based on how big those are compared to the book. So I'm going to go to the scale on this one and let's boost it up. Make it smaller. There we go. That's probably a little more accurate. Let's option click on the mask. You can kind of see what it looks like. It's a little weird we have that color going through. That might be a glitch. Let me kind of go back to this guy and just see if that's showing up below it. Let's turn it back on again. Yeah, the gray color is a little weird. That's about it. Let me see if I knock down the balance, if that goes away. Yeah, so it could have just been like a slight glitch. If I reopen Painter, that line isn't even visible. But for some reason, there was a strange stripe running through that one. I've never seen that before, but either way, I'm not really too worried about it. So there we go. And I want to combine this with the one beneath it. So what we can do from here is set this blend mode to something other than normal, because normal means it's going to cover the other one. I now want to combine them together. I'm trying to make the whites from both masks kind of add into the same mask. We could use addition, screen is a good one. I like using this light and max quite a bit, so let's click on that one. You can kind of see the rings showing up like right in here. Let's go back to material and see what we get. Okay, not too bad. I think this one kind of overpowers it. So what I may do is go to this guy, pull that one down a little more. Let's fade that concrete one back. And then I'm going to try to boost this one up. I'm hoping that stripe doesn't show up because it might. Let's see. It's interesting because even though it was showing up in the mask, I don't see the stripe in the color. So this might be fine. And we can just ignore that little weird issue. Yeah, that does seem pretty good. We can kind of tell just by doing that, like it's giving us some really nice texture variation. Let's go back here. Not too bad. I might scale this up even just a little more to make those smaller. There we go. I like that. And maybe we'll just even do one more of these guys. So let's try to get some kind of chunkier details. Let's go back. And let's see what we got here. This one's kind of interesting. Grunge plaster cracked. Sure, why not? Let's see what happens. So I had to fill, drag this one over. Okay, it covers it. Once again, not a big deal. This guy has some pretty cool texture properties to it. Now, maybe for this one, if we kind of look at it, maybe the stuff I wanted is the darker area. I can even click on these guys and invert them if I felt like the inverted version would have been better. So let's hit the invert button on that fill. Okay, we're going to flip it. Now I still want it to combine with the other one. Let's see what happens if we do max. I want to see how much this kind of overpowers the book. That's quite a bit. Let me see what it was like before it again. Let's try using overlay. Overlay sometimes works if you want to introduce contrast. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let me turn that on and off. Kind of like that. Let's go back to the material. Yeah, it's not too bad. I kind of like the overlay. Let me just boost up that value on it a little bit to see if I can push some of the lighter colors back in. There we go. But either way, you can kind of see just by stacking these fill layers together, playing around with your different grunge maps, procedurals, the blend modes of how they combine together. You can kind of continue doing this. I'll add some more color variation, and then I'll show you guys how we can also break this up by using height and roughness.